Good evening to all of you. Welcome to this podcast. Tonight's topic is about when is the teaching over or done in high school, because the end of the semester is coming quickly. There's a few weeks left in Ontario. And I was thinking my classes this week, and we're doing summative tasks. That means that in the last few weeks of this semester, we are looking at the projects where they are showing me uh, what they've learned. So they look at the topic, a question to answer, um, an inquiry they want to do. And then they spend a week where they are putting their mind into answering that question. And then they show me what they've learned. And it's interesting because the whole idea here is in high school, we are teaching students, but when is that teaching done? And then it's time for the students to teach the teacher what they've learned. And that, I think that is exciting. So good evening. Tonight we have Potato today. Nice seeing you today. We want, so we have here a topic. We're going to delete a comment right here. So the question tonight goes for the teachers where there's a few weeks left. And we give enough chance to students to show us what they've learned. So that's something to look into. So tonight, my name is Alain Faber. I've been teaching science and high school level for the last 25 years, and I enjoy what I do tremendously. And I do this podcast sharing ideas and thoughts from ideas and questions that come from my classroom, my work, and what I like to do, which is learning. So here, this podcast is divided in three parts. First part is about the learner's perspective. The second part about the teacher's perspective. And the second is about the leader's perspective. So tonight, you will notice that I will be talking about specific vocabulary that relate to teaching, but are slightly different. So let me tell you what they are right now. So as a teacher, I teach in the high school. That is great. But when you teach, there's a few things that we do during the day too. Second thing we do is coaching students. I would coach students we coach students by looking at what they share with us, the questions they have, and then we can get them in their way to go beyond. Second, there's also managing students. So when you're in a classroom, we call it sometimes classroom management. But here, students are more than people we manage. We're looking into a learning environment that gets everybody excited about learning. Another one is about educating. Above all, school is about educating the students into the school system with the teachers, with the support staff to make sure that as humans, we can all grow and live well together. We are also looking into guiding the students because guiding them is very important. Because sometimes they may have a thought in mind, but it might not lead them what's best for them. So therefore, guiding students for success to make sure they're doing great, that's amazing. So here we have Olivia. Good evening. Hopefully you're doing well. Very nice to see you today. So tonight we are looking at, and then we have Potato. Hello, very nice to see you as well tonight. So in the first segment here, I will talk about the learner's perspective. So as a student, there's a few things, there's like a process that you go through in a semester. And that's how I like to see semester to make sure that things are working nicely. So first of all, for a learner, when they come to class, this the idea that they are educated. So they're learning something new in the course they're attending. So that means that in a class, you are learning about a topic, vocabulary. You learn about understanding concepts so that you can share them with your friends, help them do better. Once they have a chance to learn a little bit, then students get all excited because they can do more than they used to do before they got to your class. And that's a time for teachers to guide them because they start having questions. They look at the topics they're looking into, and then they started to put two and two together. They're creating new ideas beyond what we're looking at in class. And then what we need to do here, we need to look into guiding them for the best learning for them. So that's important. Once we have a chance to guide them, then they can expand their questions, and that's amazing, because that's from at that point you will notice that students that are a bit more advanced, they will look into questions or create questions that is at the level of one level higher. So if they're in grade 9, they'll be thinking at the grade 9 level because they are actually at that stage. Some other people will be asking questions just to make sure they put the concepts together so they can finish the year, the grade 9, for example, or grade 11, at the place where they need to be. So that's important. Now, once you have a chance to educate students and guide them, then you get to a point where you can ask them to answer some questions. Sometimes in classes, there's some essays to do, there's some lab work to do. At that time, you are not managing students. You're supposed to be there to manage their learning path. So at that time, they're getting more and more independent. So managing their quests in answering their own questions, I think it's quite amazing. And then from there, when you have a chance to manage your students to make sure things are good, then you get to a point where you coach them. At that point, they're a bit more independent. They have their own thoughts, and then you can coach them to go even beyond what we're learning in a classroom. And that's quite important. And indeed, as students, what is interesting is that once a student is at a place where at the end of a semester they can share their thoughts about final project, then you coach them to get better at that. And what happens is that you become a place where teacher becomes a mentor, because you are at a place where the student is ready to go to the next step, the year beyond, graduate high school, and so on. So it's always exciting to see how learners the learner's process to get better goes along. So let's see what we have. We have some comments. So, Mr. Faber, I hope this letter finds you. It's going well. I'm writing to express my sincere apologies for the recent action, and I don't know what the recent action is, so I just put that aside. Okay, thank you very much. And Kahan says, hi, excellent. So let's see what we are here at this time. So this brings us to the second portion of this podcast tonight. So the second portion is about the teacher's perspective. So then again, if you're a teacher, that perspective is very, very similar to what the learner's process is in getting better. So as a teacher, the first thing you do is you go to university, you get your teacher's college certificate, and therefore you have your degree. And the only thing it gives you is a piece of paper saying that you can teach. So that first part is all about educating yourself about vocabulary, what you need to do, curriculum, some of the rules of law, just making sure that you understand what the responsibilities of a teacher is. And that's the part here of being educated. Now, as soon as you have your certificate as a teacher, you get a job, you go and work in high school, for example, in science class. And at that point, you are teaching. And then you realize that you're not very good, because the best way to become a teacher is to teach. For the same reason, the best way to be a student and to learn better is to actually go through the process of doing better. And as soon as a student has a chance to teach, few semesters, few years, then they get to a point where they have other friends, colleagues, people in the school that can help you, that can guide you to become better as a teacher. And that's quite important, because it's not some people, you may know some people where they teach and they can do that, but there's a process where you want to become better, and that's important. The next thing, so once the teacher spends a few years, gets better at teaching, then the next one is you end up with the rest of the teachers, and then you have a school that is managing teachers to offer the best programs they can be. And that's quite important. It allows everybody to be at the same, all the teachers to be carrying out the same ideas, carrying out the same program. So every student's at the same level learn similar things. So that's important, because teachers are different. They have different ideas, different perspective, and therefore it's always tricky. But if you have a strong admin team, strong people at the board to help you teach better, then managing teachers always works nicely. But as teachers, you always have people that have a few ideas. they are more independent, they're more creative. And that point, you need at that point to be coached. So there's a lot of teachers that have coaches to get them to become better teacher. And that's important because teachers, when they start going beyond just teaching the content and they start being creative with what they do, it allows them to be able. So let's see. It allows for teachers to say, okay, I'd like to do something. I tried a few times and it's not working. But then looking for a coach, they will tell you what are the things you can do to get better. And therefore, you can try, and by trial and error, gives you a chance to become an even better teacher. So after a few years, you've been educated, you've been guided, managed, and coached. And then you get to a point where you are quite, how can I say that? You're in a situation where you are quite independent. You are confident in what you're doing because you have the certainty that whatever you bring to the table is exciting. And then you get to a point where you go beyond needing a coach. You actually need a mentor at that point. So here you need to meet other people, other teachers that are very good at teaching. And therefore, what happens is that you are playing with your craft. So as a teacher, you can be a teacher, you can have all the classroom management, you can have strategies, pedagogies, and so on. But once you get to a place where it becomes easier for you, you become creative, and you have a mentor, then you play and improve your craft to be the best teachers you can be. So that's, I think, a part of the progression. The same way as a learner, you educate, you learn the topics, then you get guided, managed, coached, and eventually mentored. And that's the same progression when we go in the school system. So we have here, what sparked your passion for teaching? That's a good question. When I was a geologist, before I was a teacher, I enjoyed being with a junior geologist. And what was happening is that we could go in the field, we were collecting rocks, doing mapping, and so on. And I always enjoyed being with other people and sharing what I know and being there when they get excited, and then for them to find things that I can learn from them as well. So that was what first time I thought that teaching was very good. After a while, I decided, okay, I was working in geology, I was exploring for gold, and the price of gold got much smaller. And then the office where I was working closed down. And I thought that the best thing for me would be to go into teaching because then I could have, it would be good for family and having a time in the summer where I could go and explore. As a geologist, I love treks. So I became a teacher, and I became a teacher in 1999, quite a few years back. Great question. So here we have Olivia that says, what was hardest for you when you first started teaching? I would say the biggest thing is that my personality, I'm a bit of an introvert. So the biggest thing for me was to actually spend whole days with people and learning with them, participating, and making sure that everybody was doing what they were supposed to do. And as an introvert, it's much harder because I had to get out of my comfort zone. So I can do it. I could do it back then. However, at the end of the day, I just need sometimes a good 15 minutes to 30 minutes where I'm alone and I don't talk to anybody. Then I regroup, and then I take care of other things after that. And so I think that has been my hardest thing. And I think that it's still the hardest in a little bit as well. Great question. We have a potato that says, could you please continue your Minecraft channel? Yes, I've loved here modding videos and hope you could continue. That's a good question. I haven't done any Minecraft videos on Alpha Minecraft for probably for 2 years now. But I do play Minecraft about 1 hour a week. That's my one time when I just play a little bit. And I guess I could try to put a few videos. I should do a video just to show what I've been working on. Right now I'm working on a mod pack that's called All the Mod 9. And I'm playing with a mod that is called Alchemistry. I'm working and creating a periodic table in that mod pack. So let's see if I can do something. So Potato, that's a good question. So we have here, your Minecraft channel is the best thing in the world. Thank you very much. I still have to get better at it. And the thing though is that I don't play enough to be able to solve all the intricacies of some of the mods. But I think it would be good to show some of the work I've done. I think that's a great idea. So thank you for that. And then we have Olivia. Thank you for the answer. And your question was about the hardest thing. Very good question. So as I say, teaching is an amazing thing because you meet people all the time, different people with different ideas, and that's why I love teaching science. For example, it gives me a chance to show what I know to the students, and then open their mind to see what the next step is. So right now we're doing some summative tasks where people are doing presentations on different circuits they've done in class. Some other people, some different chemical reactions from what we had learned in class, but going one step further. One person also did some work on an optics. So he's in grade 9. However, the project is something that relates to grade 10. So this is just thinking a little bit beyond. So that was nice. We also have several other labs that I can't think of right now, but it's quite exciting. So that was grade 9. Grade 10, we're looking at environmental impact of different projects in Ontario, and that's quite exciting as well. So I like that because by the time they have a question, they answer it, and then they present the information, I can learn from my students. So that's why I said, like, when the students come to my class, same thing as with new teachers. People are being educated, you learn new things, you're guided, managed, coached, and by the time you finish a semester, you can show the teacher new things. And I think that's something we need to pay attention, because if we don't give opportunities to the students to show what they can do, I think it's a lost opportunity. With respect to my third segment here for my podcast today is about a leader's perspective when you are when you're trying to be better. Sometimes leaders, when they come into their roles, they are asked to do their job, and then they have a mentor to help them with their job. However, if you're a leader, sometimes you get into the position and sometimes you're not quite sure what you need to do. So maybe some of you may have been, let's say you're doing extracurricular activities and you get leadership roles. Maybe you're part of a community and then someone asks you to be a leader. Sometimes it works well, but sometimes you don't know what you need to do. So people say, well, they get a mentor to get better. However, it's a bit more difficult than that. I believe that a leader, the best thing to do is to learn about the leadership. There you go. Because leadership is something that is a never-ending endeavor. So as a leader, you need to educate yourself with vocabulary and what is leadership, because you need to learn about your leadership style. And then from there, you are always trying to be with other leaders so they can guide you in doing something that is out of the ordinary, because you're still in the learning phase. Once you have great people to help you, then you can become part of a group, and therefore you manage each other to get closer to your vision. And in order to become a better leader at that time, you need a coach. You need a coach because sometimes you face a situation and you still have your feelings, you still have ways of understanding the world from your perspective, and growth need to happen. So coaching is always amazing for that. And if you're lucky, I will always say that as a leader, you need to find a mentor. For the same reason, if you're a teacher, a mentor is amazing. And if you are a learner or a student, if you have a mentor, that's always the best way to go to the next level, because you are with people that are like-minded and they want what's best for you. So that is the progression for that. So let's see. We have here, why did you choose to teach science and not geography or geology? That's a good question. So if you are in the United States, geology and earth science is part of the science curriculum. So a lot more people are taking those courses. However, if you take in Ontario, for example, when you are going into science in grade 9 and 10, you have a general scientific culture. And therefore, at some point, you can decide on the field you want to do. For example, physics, chemistry, or biology. But there are a lot of people that are interested in geography, And geography is, there are two groups in geography. One is about human interaction with the environment, and you also have the resources or the physical um, areas around you. So there's two parts there. But for geology, what is interesting is that it's the study of the earth, the rocks, the rock formation, tectonics, and so on. So this is quite exciting. But for at my school, for example, we have more than 2,300 students, and there are only two classes in earth science. So very fewer people are doing that. So I haven't taught the course in geology, but we do some work, and I just bring rock samples. I bring to my class what are my interests. It's one way for me to share that. Maybe one day I'll be doing more geology. That's a good question. We have here any tips on how to become, so that's potato. We have any tips on how to become a better leader, for example, during a group project? Good question. So the best tip to be a good leader is not to want to do everything yourself. The first thing is you have as a group to see what are all the things that need to be done. And then as a group, you decide to see, okay, what are the qualities or the, the know-how of the people. And then as a leader, you are making sure that everybody is doing the best they can with their strengths, and that they can learn a little bit too, so that for the group, everybody can be there. So leader will be there to make sure that everybody know what they need to do, and everybody have all the resources they need to be able to do their job. And third, they need to make sure that they are there to give the, how can I say that? Give not the energy, but give the pep talk to make sure things work well. So at school, if you're a group project, when you have different personalities, if you can choose your group, then you know each other. It's a bit easier because then you know who is best at what. You work together and the project works well. If you work with a group of people that you don't know, then the first thing as a leader will be just to make sure that people get to know each other a little bit before the project. So getting to know each other, interests, what they like to do, what they don't like to do, so that as part of a group, you know who will be the best person to do what needs to be done. And from there, to delegate and give specific responsibilities. And then I would say that the best leader gives responsibilities and then let people do their best. Because as a leader, if you try to do the work for them, it's not helping them. So that's the difference between, sometimes the leader, we call them micro managers. So they are looking at everybody and for every steps of what they do, and takes a lot of energy, and it annoys people. In your class, you probably know teachers that are over your shoulder, making sure you do everything all at once. It's not the way I do things. I'm more of a person where I share with others what they like to do, and then I tell them what to do, give them the responsibilities, and I step back and I let them do what's best. Some people do amazingly well. They ask questions, I can help them. Some people are struggling a little bit. I guide them to make sure they reach the end point. Some people are going the different direction. I redirect their energy to make sure that they reach the ending. So at school, for example, the end result will be the end of a project or the end of a semester. Good question there. Thank you. The other one, this is unrelated for this, but I am wondering what your motivation behind your podcast. Very nice. Okay, so the reason why I started the podcast was at the end of August 2023. So that's last year. So today is I think it's the 41st episode. There's a few reasons. First was to find, I had heard about the podcast before, and a lot of people are saying that it's a good thing for people to get to find their voice, know how to do a podcast, and learn the skills to do so. So that's the first thing. Second, I'm doing a course this year we called it communication information. Let's see. It's called Communication Technology in Business. And this year, I thought I would show students how to do a podcast. And for me, if I am to teach someone to do a podcast, I need to have a podcast. Otherwise, if you don't have a podcast and teach a podcast, then I think it's a bit fake. That's my personality. And therefore, I started the podcast first to show I could do it, but second, so I can learn, so I can tell my students what to do. However, the idea of the podcast never materialized in the course because in where I work, we have to take care of security on the internet, being able to take care of your private lives, and therefore having a podcast and put it out there, or creating videos on YouTube and putting it on the web, is not in line with what's best for the students, their safety, their identity, their digital footprint. So therefore, I never taught the podcast in the class. However, I continued because I'm learning every day. I do this. I have new ideas. I have other questions. I get more comfortable because eventually I would like to do interviews with other people. But in order to do that, I need to feel comfortable with the topic of doing a podcast. So this is more or less the whole idea here. Good question, Olivia. And then we have Lucy. So Potato, thank you. Say hi to Lucy. And then, so Lucy says hi and Kahan says hi. So that you must have a get together today. Hopefully you're having a good evening. We have here Ryan, Lucy, Alan, and Kahan. All love your podcast. Thank you very much. And I will continue because I'm doing it not to share what I know, but also it is a great way for me to grow as a human and learning new things. So thank you for that. Very good. And on these are the topics. We'll see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, that will be the end of the podcast today. My plan is to do 30 minutes or so, and it's always interesting to do so. And there are no other questions, and therefore I will wish you all an excellent evening, hoping that whatever you do, you'll do well, and good luck tomorrow in whatever evaluations you have to do. On this, have a good evening, and I'll see you next week at 7:30. Take care.